Al Romero, here we are, Stand-Up Guy Radio, buddy. How you doing today, man?
Terrific, man. Our second one. We made it through the first one.
We made it. We still
I know.
we haven't figured it all out yet, but this is episode 2
I know.
of Stand-Up Guy Radio. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened to our last one. We got some nice feedback.
Yes, we did, and we had a lot of people watch too, by the way. And we're still friends. I know I made you pull all your hairs out. That's why you're bald now.
Yeah.
For all the questions that I asked you.
And you shared a lot of personal stories, so I'm sure things are interesting with the family. But but that was good. It was really, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad we're doing this. How are you doing, man, with this being locked in and the virus and everything?
I'm doing fine, man. I have a job now, which is calling the unemployment office, 24/7. So, Yesterday, I spent 11 hours dealing with unemployment. Wow. 3 hours calling nonstop. Then I got the callback option, and they told me they were going to call me back in an hour. And it took them 5 hours to call me back. Then 3 hours on the phone on the computer with a guy helping me fill out the form, which I already did a month ago. I have to do it again, and then I have to do it again 3 days from now. It's a complete total clusterfuck,
Wow. I've been having these dreams. I read something where people are having a lot of vivid dreams, and I had a dream the other night that I was arrested and incarcerated for something I didn't do. And
in Arizona.
And nobody believed me, and I couldn't get out of jail. But the funny thing is, I woke up realizing it was a dream, still pissed off about the dream, went back into the dream to defend my case, even though I knew it was a dream.
You went back to the same dream?
I went back to the dream. I'm like, this is bullshit.
I've never done that in my life.
I know it's a dream.
To go back to a dream.
No, I used to fall asleep with the news on, and I would get into an argument with the person on the news. Wake up realizing that I knew I was in a dream, and I didn't care because I was like, I don't care. That was a good argument. I'm still going to say these things out loud, even though I'm in a dream. So, wow. So it's hard, man. It's hard, and I'm really tired of watching it. I hope they come up with a vaccine or there's some medicine to help these people, but it's just I'm losing track of time. I don't know what day it is. I miss the comedy. I miss performing.
Me too, man. I tell you, I'm scared of losing, forgetting my act. Thank God I have it on radio. I mean, radio. I have it on CD and DVD, so I can listen to it.
I know. I can't wait. You know what? Maybe the first gig that we do, we'll be together. We'll do that. We'll do that Phi Delta Kappa one that we had to cancel because we had to cancel because of the virus. You were scheduled to do that.
Right. Can we do one that's going to piss off Randy Sid? Can we do that? That's the one I want. That's the first thing I want to do when I go back to comedy.
I'm trying to look for a chicken wings place in the proximity of Boca Black Box. Which I don't care if I say that because he doesn't listen to my part of the podcast.
You heard that, right?
Yeah.
He actually told me, I listened to the podcast, but I turned it down whenever Mike came on.
Yeah, so I'll be sending him a can of tuna.
Oh God.
For sure. But hey, buddy, you know what? We have this is our second one. Congratulations on the first one. We're gonna do a good job tonight, have fun. But we have a special guest, brother.
Yes, we do. Good old friend of ours.
Old friend of ours from Al and I taught comedy traffic school. I used to own and operate for comedy traffic school about 20 years ago.
How long?
Well, it was 2000. It was right after September 11th.
Wow.
It was about 20 years ago. I just started the comedy traffic school. I just started doing comedy. Al got me on the cruise ships, and we started. Everything happened at the same time, and so we were doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and Oscar is a great guy. We're going to bring him in here, and we're going to have him on the show tonight. So let's see. And ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Collazos is in the house.
All right.
Wow. Oscar, man, welcome, buddy. How are you doing with all the I mean, you're in New York, right? How are you doing with all of this virus stuff?
Well, that's an interesting question. 6 weeks in, I'll tell you that I've gone through a full range of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
When this first started, I lost my three sources of income. I work in a restaurant. I host people at my apartment on Airbnb, and I do stand-up comedy, which is how we all know each other. And all those came to pretty much a standstill at the same time.
Holy shit.
So for the first week, for the first 2 weeks or so, I was panicked in terms of how am I going to live? How am I going to make money? How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to buy food? You know, those type of essentials.
Just like when you were in Florida.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is nothing have changed in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just a little bit more concerned now than I was before.
Now you have a valid reason.
Yeah. Now I care about my life before I did.
And nobody wants to hear your problems because they all have the same problems. So.
Exactly. Dude, everybody here, a lot of people in my circle, they are in the same boat. Everybody lost everything, you know? And so it took about 2 weeks for me to, it was like a 2-week depression. It was a 2-week panic period. In addition to being like, oh my God, I can get this virus. I can go touch a doorknob and then rub my eye, and before I know it, I'm in a hospital. However, 6 weeks later, I've come to the conclusion that I've limited my lifestyle to only certain activities, and I've limited my contact with certain people. And to be 100% honest, I'm enjoying what's happening. Not in the sense of like, oh, shit's going down, because what you see on the news in terms of hospitals and people dying, that is happening. But if you drive around New York City right now, it's very peaceful. It's very quiet, and not having to work is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm good. I'm good at the moment. Once unemployment runs out, then I'm gonna have to figure something out.
Well, did you get the stimulus check?
I did, but you guys know in New York City, stimulus check pays for maybe 3 days of your rent.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it pays for the electrical. That's it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So why don't you guys send me your stimulus checks?
Yeah, I haven't gotten anything, man. I haven't got a penny.
Yeah.
Is that because you don't have papers?
No. Even with my papers, I didn't get shit.
Yeah, Florida's in a tough.
It's the worst case. The worst case is Florida. Yeah. But I haven't got the stimulus check. I haven't gotten unemployment. I haven't gotten anything.
I think what happens.
Well, wait, how are you living?
Yeah.
Well, I'm moving in with Mike.
He's in the basement.
Are you in Mike's other bedroom right now?
Yeah.
Yes. No, thank God I have some savings, man. So, but
Wow.
at some point
it's
going
last
to
time
be
I
a
tried to
problem.
borrow money, you told me you didn't have any savings. This is bullshit.
Well,
anyway.
I foresaw a worldwide pandemic, so I
Right.
knew that
Right.
I needed it.
Al and I have been talking about doing something like this, Oscar, for a long time, and Al says it only took a pandemic to get us to do a podcast.
Yeah. I saw that in your first installment of this little gathering, which, by the way, I thought was awesome.
Oh, thank you, Oscar.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see you, buddy. I can't wait to we'll talk about traffic school a little bit later in the show. But one of the things that Al and I have in common is the cruise ships. And but even before that, Al, I did something with Al before, and he told me this story. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Al was actually in the Navy.
I got that from the last video you guys did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But he has a very. I would love to hear the story again from Al Romero about being in the Navy and what happened.
Well, I was in the Navy Reserve. Well, I have to backtrack a little bit. I was about to graduate college, and they took all the deferments away, so I had to join the reserve. I had two choices. I either take a commission for 2 years in the Marines as an officer, or join the reserve. I thought the easiest thing was to join the reserve. So now I'm in the reserve, right? So when you join the reserve, you have to pick, like a school that they train you. And the shortest school was cook school. So I said, fuck it, I'm doing that. God, I'll be out of here before all these other guys. So I go to cook school, right? So now when you get out of active duty, you go into reserve, and then you go to that thing where you go 2 weeks, 1 week out of the month, and 2 weeks a year in active duty. So I'm in the reserve because I'm the cook. We get together once a weekend. Now, we have no facilities to cook or anything like that. So being the cook, my job was to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, pick up the boxes, and pass them out to the guys. So that's my job. That's what I do. Okay. So now I'm 2 or 3 years into the reserve. Every year I went with my unit. And when we went as a unit for 2 weeks, you know, the regular Navy guys didn't want nothing to do with us. So they put us in a corner, like, you know, cutting onions and cutting potatoes and stuff like that. This particular year, I don't remember the reason why, to tell you the truth. I didn't go with my unit, so I had to go by myself. Well, they sent me to an active duty destroyer in Portland, Oregon, that was on dry dock because one of the screws was broken. So now I show up, you know, to the destroyer, and I walk in, and the guy says to me, "Oh man, I'm so glad you're here because I have to do inventory. So I'm glad I have a cook now to cook the meal." And I go, whoa. I said, I don't cook, man. He said, "What do you mean you don't cook?" I said, no. You don't understand. I'm in the reserve. I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I pick up boxes, and I pass them out. The guy says, "Bullshit." He points to my designation on my thing. "So what does it says there? What does it says you are?" I go, "Yeah, it says I'm a cook, man. But, you know, I went to active duty. I got off active duty, and that's all I did. You know, I pass out Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes. That's my job." The guy says, "Well, bullshit, you have to cook." And he leaves. He leaves me there. So now I look around, and you remember the movie Deliverance?
Yes.
Remember the two retarded kids playing the banjo?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, they're in my kitchen now, okay? They're standing there looking at me, and I go, "Do you guys know how to cook?" No. So now I have a choice. What do I do now? I have to feed 250 men. I have to feed breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks in between. So I said to myself, well, if I bust my ass and I pull out this lunch, I'm going to have to do this 3 times a day or more every single day for 2 weeks. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to do this. So what do? I said, what's the second thing best I can do? I said, I burn everything. I fucking fuck up everything on purpose. Okay. I figure the guy's going to find out I know how to cook. Everything's, oh my God. I walk out of the kitchen. Now you have to understand this. When I tell this story to people that have been in the Navy, they understand completely because they understand the mentality. In the Navy, you know, do your whole day is you get up in the morning, you have breakfast, then you do your work, then you have lunch, then you do your work, you have dinner. So food is a main integral part of your day. So now I walk out and I say to 250 men that are sitting in the dining room, excuse me, there's not going to be any lunch today. And they're looking at each other like, is this guy fucking kidding? And then I said the magic word, says, I'm going to try to make some sandwiches. When I said that, because that's what happens when they know for sure that there's not going to be food, they have sandwiches. There's pandemonium now. People are fucking screaming at me. They're fucking yelling at me. What the fuck is going on? I mean, it's like pandemonium. You got to see these men, how pissed off they are. So now the guy comes over, you know, what the hell happened? I explained to him. Well, they call us into the captain's office. So now I'm sitting there at the captain's office, me and this guy, and he comes to me and says, what the fuck did you do? And I go, Captain, you know, I'm in the reserve. And I explained to him that I went to cook school, got out, never cooked again. And I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and I pass out Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes. And I explained that to him. So he looks at this guy and goes, you fucking idiot. don't you understand that this is back in the Vietnam War, when now the reservists they actually go to war when they get, call in. Back then the reservists were, it's bullshit. So he starts, lambasting this guy. You stupid idiot. Don't you know these reservists don't know shit what they do? So now I feel empowered. So I go, Captain, that's exactly. And the captain goes, shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of my office. Get the fuck out of my office. So I walk out. Now I walk out of the office, and here is the assistant to the captain and the XO, which is the second in command. And they're sitting there and they're looking at each other. I can hear the captain screaming at this guy, calling me every name in the book. So the captain, the XO, and the assistant are looking at each other and kind of giggling to each other. And finally, the assistant says to me, so do you really pass out Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes? And I go, yes, sir, that's what I do. And they start laughing their ass off. So I go, I'm scared shitless. I'm like 23, 24 years old. I go, sir, am I going to get court-martial? He goes, don't worry about it. Just go to your bunk. I'll talk to the captain. Don't worry about it. So I go to my bunk. So now the guy will not talk to me. The cook will not talk to me. He sent one of the retarded kids to tell me that I have to go to the storeroom, and my job is whenever they need something, I pass it out to them. Well, now, unbeknownst to me, this guy, the cook, is the most hated guy on the ship because he was an asshole. Like, he was an asshole to me. He was an asshole to everybody. So now the word spreads around through the whole ship of what happened. So now people are coming up to me and asking me, what happened with the story. So now we are in dry dock. So we're in Portland, where, we are there. So every night, everybody has leave, This guy doesn't let him off the ship. He has to stay for the I don't know how long, the whole 2 weeks I was there. He was, remanded to the ship. He wouldn't go out. So I go out and stuff like that. So now everywhere I went, people bought me drinks. I had to tell the whole fucking story of what happened. Guess, here's a Cuban guy in the Navy. Guess what my nickname was for the whole 2 weeks I was there? Kentucky. That was my name. Kentucky, come over here. Come over here, Kentucky. Tell the story. Tell what happened. So I had to tell the story like 17,000 times. And this son of a bitch got screwed because he couldn't get out. He couldn't do anything. So the moral of the story is don't ask Al Romero to cook.
And this is why we lost the Vietnam War. So
exactly. yes, exactly.
But
everybody
those guys were so pissed off. That's awesome. So,
but you have to be in the.
Thought we're gunned down. We're actually malnourished and died.
Exactly. You have to understand. You understand the mentality of these people. You tell people in the Navy there's no food, they go fucking out of their minds.
Right.
You don't
have Why did you decide to be a cook?
Because it was the shortest school.
School.
I could get out of active duty as soon as possible. Right. And since I'm in the regular Navy, the sooner that I got out, the sooner I go back to my home. And then all I have to do is go up 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year.
Did you have any other options?
Yeah, I could have taken a commission in the Marines for 2 years.
So cook or commission for 2 years? There was no in between?
Well, yeah, I could get drafted. I was going to get drafted anyways. I was eligible for the draft. If you were born February 8, remember, you're too young to remember that, but they had a lottery system. And that's how they started drafting people according to a lottery system. If you were born the day before my birthday, it was number 25. The day after it was 250 something. The day after my birthday was like 300 something. My birthday was number 25. So I was going to get drafted anyway. So I had to make a decision. And I didn't want to, I told you that I wanted to work for the FBI. So I figured the soonest, that I can get out of the Navy of this thing, the better it is. So I figured I'd go, active duty for a few months, get out and, apply for the FBI. And that was end up screwing me up. Why I didn't end up joining the FBI. That's another story. It's another too long story.
Right. So I have a question. So me and Al worked on the ships. And Oscar, you worked on the ships a little bit too, right?
I worked on the ships for about 2 years.
And how was that for you?
It was, man, there were so many emotions with my time on the ships. It was awesome and awful at the same time.
Yeah. What did you not like about it?
I didn't like the travel.
Yeah, the travel's ridiculous, man.
The travel for me was extremely grueling because I live in New York City, and I did, if I remember correctly, I worked for Carnival, and I did the Imagination, and I think the Imagination sailed out of Miami, went to Nassau, day out at sea, and then came back.
Right.
So my trajectory was to fly from New York City on Saturday morning, like at 4 a.m., land in Miami, transfer to a small island hopper, land in the Bahamas, go through security, go through immigration, go through the port security, and then go through ship security. And by the time I got to my bed on the ship, I woke up in New York like at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And by the time I got to my bed on the ship, it was like 5 p.m., 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of getting dressed, getting undressed, getting dressed, getting undressed, transferring here, transferring there, transferring here, transferring there. And that after a while got grueling, like really grueling. And,
well, imagine me when I did that, be doing that for 20 some years.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, I'm not taking anything away, but you live in Miami, so
I don't join the ships in Miami ever. Very seldom do I ever join a ship in Miami. I have to fly to an island to pick up a ship.
Yeah, but you fly to Nassau and Cozumel. Where else do you fly?
No, well, I can fly to Barbados. I can fly to St. Kitts. I can fly, I can fly to California. They send me to Hawaii for 2 days.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yes. So you definitely know, you guys understand, but the people who are watching, it's, when you tell people that you work on a cruise ship, they think it's this lifestyle that's amazing.
Oh yeah. Drinking margaritas and doing the limbo on the
right. They think you're a regular cruise ship patron. They think that you're in the middle of a conga line at the pool deck.
I had a problem for a while coming in and out of the country. That every time there was a short period of time where I was being secondarily screened every time, 2 or 3 times a week in Miami. They wouldn't tell me why. And then I would say to them, well, you just screened me 2 days ago. If you screened me properly, wouldn't that tell you that whatever you were screening me for is not a problem today? And there was always a problem. I was coming back from Jamaica. It was Christmas. They're like, how long were you in Jamaica? I had cleared customs. I had cleared immigration. I'm in customs. How long were you in Jamaica? I said, a couple hours. And they said, why? I said, well, I was getting off a ship. They said, can you prove it? And I said, I don't have to prove it. I already cleared immigration. And everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at me. And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to let you do your job and keep my mouth shut. And I'm sorry for mouthing off. I'm going to be quiet. And then some guy says to me, good idea. And I couldn't let it go. And I said, oh yeah, what if I don't? The next thing you know, I'm surrounded. They have guns, pulling guns. I have my hands up. I'm like, I'm an American citizen requesting a supervisor. I'm an American citizen requesting a supervisor. American citizen. The supervisor came over. They took my stuff. Everything fell on the floor. I went in. I told them, because I was having trouble with them for a while. I actually wrote a letter to my congressman and my senator about what was happening with immigration. And they wrote me a letter back, apologized, said it won't happen anymore. But anyway, he apologized, and I left. Do you want to file a complaint? I go, no. The one thing about that story is they never looked in my bag. After everything that happened, I left with my bag, never got looked in. It was just, I told him, I said, I think that some of your officers are excellent and some of them are incompetent, and they overcompensate with intimidation. That's all they have.
They have a power trip.
Yeah. And why do they have a gun? Why do you have a gun at your desk. Am I going to run through the airport? I don't understand. They hate their job. Everyone's coming back from vacation and going on, and they get to sit at that desk and they probably hate their job. But I know Al had a similar problem too.
Well, no, actually, my problem was not with immigration or custom. My problem was TSA.
Yeah.
I really have to get personal in order to tell this story.
Yeah, it's a personal story.
Yeah, I have to backtrack, okay? The whole thing starts with me having a problem with my testicles. I'm in the shower and I'm noticing that my testicles are growing. And I'm going, this is not normal. So I go to the doctor and the guy says to me, well, you have developing a third testicle. And I go, what? And he go, yeah, it's called a hydrocele. It's not really a testicle. It's what happens is, liquids or it's getting into your scrotum, and it's like having three testicles, and your testicles are going to keep growing and growing. So now I have to have an operation. Now, they tell me that I have to, lay low for 2 weeks because I can't be walking or anything like that. I know we do is walk at the airport. So I figure, well, I can't do that. I mean, I'm going to lose too much money. If we don't work, we don't get paid. So I let it go. Man, let me tell you, I'm not lying to you. My balls got this big. They got the size of a cantaloupe. Now, this is years ago when they first instituted the X-ray machine. So I go to the X machine for the first time. So no, I go there, I lift my hand, I go out, and there's a guy come over and says, excuse me, Mr. Romero, but do you mind following me? I go, no, that's okay. So they take me to this little room, right? Two guys, one is guarding the door and the other one is talking to me. I don't know what the hell they thought I was going to do. So the guy says to me, he goes, Mr. Romero, have you taken everything out of your pockets? Do you have anything in your pants? And I go, no. I mean, I taken everything out. I mean, you can search me. I go, are you sure you have nothing in your pants? And I go, no, sir, I have nothing in my pants. I remove everything. He says to me, well, sir, there's an anomaly in your pants. Now, who the fuck talks like that? So I start laughing, because it's so ridiculous. There's an anomaly in your pants. So I say, that's what she said. So now the guy gets very serious. He goes, sir, we're no joking. Then he says again, there's an anomaly in your pants. Now, I can't stop chuckling because it's so ridiculous. I go, listen, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean by an anomaly in my pants. I have removed everything. You can search me. You can pat me. You can do whatever the hell you want to. Then he says to me, could it be that you have like a hernia? And he dunks on me. He's talking about my balls. So I said to him, and I'm laughing. I go, no. I don't have a hernia. I have 3 balls. So now he goes really pissed because he thinks I'm fucking with him. So he goes, sir, we're not joking. This is a matter of national security. So I can't stop laughing. And I go, wait a minute. Are you telling me that my balls are a threat to the security of this country? So now I can see that they're ready to throw me on the floor and handcuff me. So I go, wait. Listen. I am not bullshitting you. I'm not being a wise ass. I have what is called in layman's term 3 testicles. In medical terms, it's called a hydrocele, where your testicles get really big. So they're looking at me skeptical, like that, it's this guy bullshitting us. So at this point, I don't give a shit anymore. So I said, you don't believe me? Watch it. I dropped my pants. And the guy that's talking to me looks at my balls, looks at the other guy and goes, holy shit. I go, look, listen, relax, don't worry about it. He started apologizing. I'm sorry. We didn't mean to embarrass. I said, listen, don't worry about it, man. If I would have seen my balls on an X-ray machine, I would have done the same thing. Now, you know that for the rest of the day, they're calling over their friends and going, come here. You see that? That's this guy's balls. Will you believe that? So the end of the story is I actually got an operation. I got it taken care of, and now I have the balls of a 13-year-old boy.
Oh my God. I have can I tell you guys a similar ball set
Yeah,
story?
yeah.
So there was one day where this was maybe about 10 years ago, where I was experiencing rashes all over my body at random times and at random places, mainly in sensitive areas. So I would wake up and I'd have a rash on my neck. I would have a rash under my armpits. Anywhere skin is sensitive, out of nowhere, I would just get rashes, and they were pretty big. And I thought it was bed bugs. I thought it was fleas. Like, I thought it was everything. And, but they would come and go really quickly. And I didn't have enough time to be like, what the hell's going on? Let me look into this. And then one day I was just kind of hanging out in my house, laying down. And then I woke up to take a leak. Middle of the day, taking a leak situation.
You woke up in the middle of the day?
Yeah, middle of the day.
Bastard.
4 o'clock, baby. Yeah, bum. So I go to the bathroom. I go to take a leak, and as guys, you know the protocol. You don't really have to look. You just grab everything down there and you point it towards the toilet if you have to, whatever. And as I peed, it felt hot. And I was like, wow, that's a really weird feeling. And I looked down, and it was the strangest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. My ball sack was the size of a grapefruit, and for lack of better terminology, my dick was huge, not long, just swollen. And when I looked down and I saw this, my heart went into overdrive, and so did my mind. I started thinking, who did I touch? Who wasn't honest with me? What do I have? This was my thought process. I was like, who did I touch? Who wasn't honest with me? Do I go to the hospital? I'm never going to have kids. If I never have kids, what's the point of living? I'm going to kill myself. That's what was my trajectory right there. And I was like, you got to go to the hospital right now. And then I was like, I can't go to the hospital because people are going to laugh at my ball sack, and I can't have that. And I got so overwhelmed that I did what every grown man in that situation would do, which is I said to myself, I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, well, that is the sensible thing to do. Yeah, because when you wake up, your balls will be back to normal.
Yeah,
the right thing to do.
In my mind, I was like, I have a friend who's a doctor, and I was like, I'm going to take a picture of my package. I'm basically going to take a dick pic and send it to a friend of mine so he can analyze it. And I was very embarrassed, and I was like, I'm not doing that either. Just go to sleep. You're overwhelmed, and when you wake up, if this thing is still there, then go to the hospital. So I took another nap, and I woke up, and when I looked down, everything was fine. That I actually thought it was a dream. Yeah, I thought it was a dream.
Wait a minute, like, you cut out. Wait, Mike. You cut out there for a minute. What happened when you woke up? Everything was back to normal?
Everything went back to normal, and I thought it was a dream. Yeah. That night, I had a show at Bananas Comedy Club in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. And my friend, I believe everything happens for a reason. So that day, I'm opening for Donnell Rawlings from the Chappelle Show, Ashley Larry. And my friend who lives in New Jersey, who happens to work for an allergist, was at the show. And I hadn't seen her in a while. So when I showed up, she's like, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. I was like, I woke up and I had huge balls and this and that. And I went crazy. And she basically was like, what type of soap do you use? And I told her I use Tide. And she was like, get rid of Tide. Do you use dryer sheets? Are they scented? She's like, get rid of them if you do. And it was basically this chemical and Tide and a lot of detergents and fabric softeners that give you rashes. And ever since I switched my detergent, and I haven't had that ever.
Wait a minute. You wash your balls with Tide?
Well, he washes his clothes with Tide. Well, Al's like he uses Downy. He's a
yeah, I use well, I mean,
but So you took a nap, and yeah. I'm okay. I understand what's happening here.
Okay.
This
So
is a
Mike,
desperate. Hold on now. This
right.
is a desperate attempt to get me to talk about my balls. I am
Exactly. I wanted
going,
to find out what happened to your balls. What's your ball story?
I am not going to talk about my balls. I will not succumb to peer pressure. Okay. 3 guys get together who haven't seen each other in 20 years, decide to talk about their testicles. Okay.
I have, but I want to say that I have the balls of a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I just want to go on record about
I'm
that.
looking at my list, and I do not see testicles on my list of things to talk about. Not even close. I don't see rash. I don't see testicles. I don't see ball sack.
Yeah.
I don't see tide. I don't know, but that's good. You know, sometimes things are important.
The improv part of the show.
The improv. And we went right to the ball sack. But the one thing I want to get to for sure that we all have in common, the thing I'm most excited to talk about too, is I'm very proud of Oscar. I met him about 20 years ago at Comedy Traffic School in Fort Lauderdale. I just started. I literally taught a class, took the money from the class, bought a computer, then taught another class, bought a printer, and grew. And then I met Oscar. He was working at a restaurant. What was it? Was it Ruth's Chris you were working at?
No. We met at Bocanuts Comedy Club. I was working there, but we met at Bocanuts Comedy Club on Glades and Turnpike.
Oh, okay. And then you came over to interview for a job.
You came up to me and you were like, "Hey, you're very funny. Do you want a job?" And I was like, well, that's weird because I just tanked because I sucked.
No, you were good. You're good. You're good. I know.
Well, thank you.
Good. You were good kid. You're good comedy. You were good.
But
and you worked in the office and you taught some classes.
Yeah, you gave me a job in the office, and it the role grew from, hey, answer phones. You hired me to answer phones, and
right?
I would answer phones, and people would tell me their stories, and I would entertain them, and then it became, you gave me more responsibilities as time went by, and before I knew it, I was running your entire company.
Yeah. So what happened was I used to work for the Improv Comedy Traffic School. I started my own traffic school. They tried to sue me. I won. They had to pay my lawyers. So then what happened was right when I got the business for the Comedy Traffic School, for those of you that don't know, if you get a speeding ticket, you go to traffic school, you don't get points in your license. So that at Comedy Traffic School, I worked for one for 7 years and then started my own. But then the cruise ship, Al got me on the cruise ships when he hooked me up with casino, and I was working the cruise ship. So I'm doing the cruise ships. I'm trying to run the business. I'm in Jamaica calling you guys, how's it going? You guys are like, fuck you. You're in Jamaica. We don't care. But that company actually grew 300% in the first year. It grew so fast, and I was getting sued the whole time. It was very stressful working on ships. It was a very stressful time for me. But Oscar became my office manager and one of my best instructors, and Al was an instructor. And how many classes a month were you teaching, Al, you think?
I was teaching 2 or 3 a month. Yeah, whenever I was not on the ships, I would teach the classes. And
at one point, I mean, when I started, I was teaching all the classes, but we got up to about 30 classes a month 30 or 40 classes a month we were teaching. How many were you teaching, Oscar?
I was teaching Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So 4 times 4, 16. I was teaching about 16 classes a month.
Right.
I guess I was teaching more than that. I think it was when I was in town, I was teaching like about 6 a month. I was teaching about 6 a month.
And what did you like teaching the classes, Oscar?
I did, and I did because it provided a stage for me to develop.
Yeah.
As an entertainer, it provided a platform for me to be able to learn and grow about basically public speaking, right?
Right.
So the way you pitched the job to me, you were like, hey, going back to the comedy club when we met, you're like, hey, it's really funny, you want this job? And I was like, sure, what do I have to do? And you verbatim said to me, you said, you do what you just did, except you talk about traffic for 4 hours. Can you do that? And I was like, I guess, yeah. And so we had this curriculum, and I learned it, and I studied it, and then I just apply. You would tell us to apply your personality to the curriculum. So I was able to learn this script of 4 hours and kind of elongate it with my jokes and my stories, and with people's stories, you know, that got traffic tickets. So that helped me develop material. That helped me be in front of people. That helped me. I think the biggest thing, honestly, is that we took a group, and sometimes it was a small group, and sometimes it was a really big group. Sometimes we'd have 4 people in the class, and sometimes we'd have up to 125 people in the class.
I know.
Yeah. How about the 8-hour classes that we had to teach?
Those were short. Yeah, we still had to do those, and those were murder. But
8 hours.
Less people. Those had less people. But
which made it worse. The more people you had, the easier it was. At least for me, it was.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. But I think what happened, what I learned the most was getting a group of really angry individuals, and by the end of 4 hours, having them leave that class and being like, you know what, this was a lot of fun. That was the biggest thing that I took out of of the whole experience, because to get somebody from being really angry to have them leave 4 hours later completely ecstatic about the fact that they chose this particular company to take their class, that was a big win.
Yeah, comedy traffic school probably helped me as a comedian more than anything else, because like you said, from 6 to 10 o'clock at night, these people are pissed off. They're not drinking. They're sitting in a hotel conference room, and they were supposed to be comedians. They're not expecting us to be funny. They don't really think we're going to be funny, because if we were really funny, we wouldn't be teaching traffic school, is what they think.
Right.
And I went in there, and I didn't try to be funny. I was very serious in the beginning, and then I would become funny. And by the end of the class, they would come up to me and thank me. And you had to be clean. You had to be pretty much G to PG rated. And I interviewed everyone in the class. What did you get your ticket for? And then my psychology background would kick in, and I would hear the rationalizations and all the stuff that they would.
You had to be PG, because I used to tell my ball story all the time. So that was news to me that you had to be PG.
But it made me so strong, and it made me interact. It made me really good at interacting with people. In fact, it's one of my favorite things to do is to just interview people about what they got a ticket for. And I have about 15 minutes of material in my show where I actually interview people who got the ticket because of that. And it really, but the business part of it, Oscar, the business part, dude, the office and the friendships that I remember bringing friends in. I made every mistake you could possibly make. I grew too fast. I hired friends. We had Keith Ernst, Brett Ernst's brother was there, your buddy. I hired friends. I wasn't there enough. In the beginning, the first 2 years, I was there every day, 12 hours a day with Treza. And then she was answering the phone. But I was there every day.
And Richie.
Huh?
You had a guy named Richie.
Who ripped me off and tried to start a traffic school behind my back at Bocanuts. When Bocanuts became New York Comedy Club, they came down and they said, oh, because I used to teach classes there on Monday night, and we had over 100 people there, or 90 people we had in a class, in their thing. And Richie Connell, who originally owned it, he used to give me a really good deal. And he says, I'm not going to rape you. It's a new business, whatever. When they came down, they tried to make a deal. And then one day I saw Richie's name on the bulletin board, and I said, why is he on the bulletin board? They said, oh, I don't know. This guy who I took in from off the streets, gave a job. The first day he was there, the petty cash was missing. And I remember I was talking to Treza, and she goes, I think he took it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, dude, look, if he took the money for a taxi, whatever, it's fine. Just tell us what's, anyway, turns out he did that. And he was trying to start a school behind my back with someone else. And then one day I was looking at my credit card bill, and I noticed there was some furniture, because when I would go to New York, I was going up there to see this girl. I would let him run some of the stuff and book the hotels and stuff, and I gave him the credit card. I saw that he bought some furniture. Somebody bought furniture on my credit card, and I called him up in the middle of the night. I'm like, what the, And he's like, oh, don't fire me, whatever. And then I learned some valuable lessons, dude. Like, you know, everybody thinks you have money when you have a big business, you have a business and it's coming in, and people start stealing from you, and they just, it changed everything in my life. Owning your own business is just a bigger wolf at the door, man. It was just like, and I was gone all the time. And then things slowed down after September 11th, business got slow. And I remember going up to you guys and saying, you know, we're going to close in about 30 days. You need to start looking for another job. And I think you were the last employee.
Wait, hold on. I have to, I don't mean to correct you on this.
No, it's fine. I don't remember correctly, maybe.
Yeah, no, the dates are off because I graduated college December 2001.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the job with you in like March or April of 2002. And I worked with you until about 2005.
Right.
So it was around that time when that happened. But I wanted to tell you the most interesting story that Richie, when I got there, Richie was there, Treza was there, but Richie didn't last that long because that's when you found out he was stealing from you. But the most interesting thing that I remember learning from this character named Richie is how important being sober to sober people is, right?
Yeah.
So this guy was sober.
Yeah.
I had just graduated college. I was a drunk. I mean, all I did was drink all day long.
Yeah.
So after we would work together, I'd be like, Richie, come on, let's go and get a drink. And he was like, no, man, I can't. I was like, come on, man, let's go. You know, when you're young, you just push people to go drink. And he would always be really awkward. He's like, no, I can't. And there was one time I was like, Richie, man, come on, man, let's go get a drink. What the hell is your problem? Like, what are you scared of? And he snapped. He grabbed the Bible. He had a Bible. And he shows me the Bible and he goes, you want to know what's wrong? I killed somebody. I ran somebody over with my car. I can't drink anymore. I can't do it because when I do, I kill people. And I was like, whoa.
And he's teaching traffic school?
No.
Do you guys had any problem? Because I had a couple of problems with people who showed up. I had a guy that was totally completely drunk in my class. I had to call the police. I had to call the police and get him out.
You know what I loved about that is when I would teach the class and they would say, I want to speak to the owner. And I'd be like, okay. And they're like, what? I go, I'm the owner. And they would be, that made everything almost worthwhile. And then I kicked the guy out for the same thing out. He called the police.
Well, I'll tell you what. I had a situation. I used to tell them the same thing to shut him up. So I had a woman that started disrupting the class from the minute, before the class started, she was already disrupting it. So I said, you have to leave. You can't be in this class. So, and she says, well, I want to talk to the owner. I says, I'm the owner, sweetheart. And I'm telling you, you have to leave. So she calls the office and Mr. Collazos, fucking prick, tells him, no, he's not the owner. I don't know what he's telling you that. So I call Oscar and I go, listen, you fucking prick. If you think that you get your fucking ass up here and you teach this class because I'm not putting up with this fucking bitch, okay? She's disrupting the class before it even start, and I told her I was the owner just to shut her up, and you're telling him that I'm not. So you get your ass over here and you teach the class.
Let me ask you a question, Al. Yeah. Was that in Coral Springs?
No, it was not. It was in Hollywood.
Oh, it was in Hollywood. Okay.
It was in Hollywood, yeah.
And let me tell you something about Oscar. Oscar was a young man who was very detailed. He used to correct me because I wouldn't capitalize certain things. Punctuation was wrong. He was the hardest working young man, quality guy I had ever met. And it was perfect. I trusted Oscar. And Oscar had to go through a lot of crap because he became friends with everybody in the office and everything turned to shit. But let me ask you, Oscar, how often did Al call the office?
Oh, my God.
Nah, bullshit. I did not.
Al, I would come into the office and everyone would be like, they looked like they wanted to commit suicide. And I was like, what's wrong? And they're like, Al's been calling.
That's a lie. You lying bastard.
That's not a lie.
Mike, I think if you asked me that question,
huh?
I think if you ask me that question, you have to mute Al.
I was going to. I can. But go ahead. Give me your experience with Al.
Oh, that's
calling the office.
No, Al definitely called. Al called a lot. Al called on the way there. He would call to make sure that he was teaching the right class on the same day. Then he would call to make sure he was taking the right road to get there. Then he called to make sure he's getting off the right exit. And he called to make sure he was going to the right hotel. And then make sure he was going to the right front desk person. I was like, there's only one front desk person, so go to that guy.
That's a lie.
Yeah. And then if people weren't, because we had a lot of people who would register or like would show up and didn't register. So that was the biggest key. That was the biggest problem right there, is where people.
Al, it's not a lie. I had to call. I only had 3 people answering the phones for customers. The other 3 were to answer your calls.
That's a fucking lie. That's a lie. I called maybe twice.
Al, what are you very persistent, bro. You call me, we have a conversation, and we get off the phone, and I say, okay, here's what we're going to do for the podcast, right? And then you will text me 5 minutes.
Wait, we're in a podcast or we're in traffic school?
The same personality. You just told me you spent 7 hours on the phone calling unemployment today, calling and hanging up and calling and hanging up.
Well, that's the only way I can get through.
I know. So, but Oscar would take the calls. Kevin would take the calls. And then Oscar called me Rudy Giuliani for a while. You said that because I think I did a fairly good job. I had some systems in place to avoid problems. Like we might have 4 or 5 classes going on a Saturday, and I didn't want 40 people showing up to having no class. So I had everyone call everybody. But you said I always had like a backup plan or something. What was it you said to me? Do you remember, Oscar?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think anytime there was a problem that I was young, I was 23.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to think on my feet. I didn't know 2 steps ahead. I couldn't think forward, and I would run into a problem, and I would try to figure it out. But when that first line of defense of trying to figuring it out wouldn't work, I would call you, and then you would have multiple options. And I was like, how the hell does this guy know to have all these things readily available?
Right.
I mean, you didn't even hesitate. You just banged things out. But here, let me mention something. Al, after class, would call me and be like, hey, how do I get home?
You know why he had all those plans? Because I will call him and tell him. That's why he had all those
No,
plans.
After 2 years of doing it all myself, I think I'm pretty good at anticipating problems and having a plan to fix it. That's my biggest fear, is that something would happen and I wouldn't have an option to fix it. So I always like to have a backup situation. So I also like to avoid it. That's why we would call all the students the day before, remind them of class. We would call the hotels. And I know it was monotonous and it was a hassle. And then we would call people if they didn't show up. But we also had the highest rate of shows. We had people showing up, and we had a really good school. We had a very good school. And I think part of the reason that it went away was, the phone stopped ringing as much. Was a lot of it was on people were doing stuff online.
Yeah, that's what it was. Online killed it.
Online
killed it because people listen. People that have never seen the class and didn't know how entertaining it was. You had 2 choices: you go to a hotel room for 4 hours on a Saturday, or you stay in your house on your underwear, scratching your ass on a computer. Right. So people chose to stay in their house.
But Oscar's doing something that I always wanted to do, and I want to ask him about it. So you're doing stand-up comedy in New York City, which was my dream, my whole dream. And the reason I started traffic school was to be able to have a business to generate revenue so I could go to New York and do stand-up comedy. That was my dream. And then the business grew, which became like a wife, and I had to come home and take care of it. But you actually followed through and went to New York and do stand-up comedy in New York. How did you make it happen, and how is it for you?
Well, if I were to say it very quickly, is I ran your business to the ground and then went to New York.
You see what happened? He took all the money, and that it wasn't Richie, the one that was taking the money. It was Oscar. He took all the money and moved to New York.
Hey, that looks like my printer in the background. Is that my TV back there? Holy!
No,
Oh,
no.
but how did you do it, bro? How did you do it? I was so proud of you. And you did a show we did a show together at Art Serve recently too. And when he comes to town, he went to high school. He's from Plantation, right?
Yep.
You went to high school in Plantation?
Yep.
Like all his friends come to his show. It's amazing. But how did you get to New York, and how is it to be there?
Well, to be honest, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity that you gave me at such a young age, because you provided so many opportunities for me in terms of development, right? So we had this very successful traffic school. And if we were to give thanks to anybody, let's give thanks to the cops in South Florida for just writing everybody up. You know?
Yeah.
But once the legislature allowed the class to be taken online, our business tanked. The business that we were running tanked. So we saw numbers. I remember having a class in Boca Raton of 120, 122 people.
Yeah. I remember that.
And then 3 months later, there was like 4 people. And the 4 people were there because they needed the certificate that day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Class online, they would mail it to you, and it would take a while. And there was a lot of hurdles to kind of overcome.
Do you know how much I was spending on Yellow Page ads? $10,000 a month I was paying for those Yellow Page ads. That's what back in the day when people used to call, they would look in the Yellow Pages because the ticket would say, look in the Yellow Page.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. So when the when the company folded, when you said, hey man, I don't think we're going to be able to do this anymore, I held on as long as I could, and then I jumped ship a little. I think I jumped ship about a month before you were like, I'm going to close this. Because you tried to hold on to it for like
I tried to hold on. Yeah.
But then I saw it just going nowhere. I was like, this isn't going to work. So I left. And then a month later, you decided to close. And to be honest, I was like 24 at that time.
Yeah.
Dude, I was living the life. I was making money because you paid me very, very, very generously. And thank you for that. I bought a motorcycle. I had a car with rims and a system. I was living with my parents. I didn't have an expense in the world.
My accountant was always giving me shit about that. And I always cared about my employees. Do you remember I would come in and be like, is your chair okay? Is your chair okay? Is everything okay? I wanted my employees to be happy. I wanted everyone to, I remember I always said it's about quality of life. If this doesn't improve the quality of your life in some way, you shouldn't be doing it. So I'm glad you appreciate it. I hope it was good. Yeah.
No, dude, there isn't one thing about Comedy Traffic School that I hated other than having to pick up Al Romero's phone call.
Let me see. Oh, there we go. Can you see that?
Is that your testicle? What is that?
Yeah, this are my balls now.
Is that your third ball over there on the pinky?
Yeah, it's this one, the pinky one now.
Have you been biting your nails because you haven't gotten unemployment? Is that why your nails
Look at that. Look at that. My nails are perfect. You got that.
No, listen, Mike.
Yes, sir.
So when this thing ended, I had no backup plan. I had nothing to think. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And when you're that age, you care about what people think. And when that type of thing happens, everyone starts asking you, what are you going to do? What's your next move? And when you're 24 years old, you run away from problems. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to do this, 'cause I didn't have a plan and I couldn't think of a plan. I said, I'm going to go travel because people will look up to you if you go explore the world. People admire that. But if you just hang out at your house scratching your balls, people don't look up to that. I mean, maybe now in the last 6 weeks, people will look up to that. But I said, I'm going to go travel the world because I needed time to think about what I was doing. So I went to Costa Rica, I went to Puerto Rico, and then I went to Colombia. And when I was in Colombia, which is where I was born, I got a phone call from my cousin, and she said, hey, we have this apartment in New York that's owned by a family member of ours, and the person is going to leave. And you've always wanted to live in New York. So Uncle Joe, who was my cousin's husband's uncle who owned the building, was like, he wants to give it to you. I'm in Colombia. traveling, having the time of my life. And I said, hey, how about I call you when I get back? And my cousin said, no, you need to tell me if you want this apartment now, because if you don't want it, it's going to go to someone else in 2 minutes. So I asked my cousin, I said, what do you think? And then she goes, well, you've always wanted to live in New York. This is a family apartment. You need to take it. And I was like, yeah, but I've never seen it. She goes, it doesn't matter. Take the apartment. And I go, great, I'll take the apartment. And then she's like, great, I'll tell Uncle Joe. And then we hung up. And I remember sitting in Colombia in this unair conditioning house. And I looked in the mirror and I said, oh my God, I just committed to a life in New York without even knowing what I was getting myself into. I had no savings. I had nothing. So I cut my trip short because I was going to go to Peru and Argentina and Chile and explore all of South America. But I cut that short and I bought a flight from Colombia to Miami to New York. And I started my life in New York on February I started my life in New York like February 3rd. So I went from sun and beach and sand and everything was new to the grimiest, dirtiest, most cold apartment I've ever lived in. And that's how I did it.
See, that's family for you. They give you the shittiest apartment they could think of.
Dude, I had a 2-bedroom in Brooklyn, in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, for $700.
Wow. I had a on the Upper West Side on 74 West, between West End and Riverside, a 72nd, 74th between West End and Riverside. It was like $1,800, and it was as big as my bedroom right now.
Wow. What I find fascinating is that at that time when traffic school ended, the two choices that you have was either to go travel or stay in your house and scratch your balls. I kind of find there was nothing in between those two choices.
But see, the things I noticed in Oscar, the qualities he had was I trusted him. He was honest, and he was actually helping his family. You know, he was a guy who was actually helping his family out, and they were helping him. He was very close to his family. He was working, and I just thought he was a class act. I saw him as someone who had a lot of.
Let me ask you something. Are you guys going to blow each other when this show is over? Is that what's going to happen? Because I don't want to be around when that happens. Okay?
And if it wasn't for Al's scary balls, who knows what would have happened? But anyway, so no, but Al must have got a call. Al,
no, it was my low batteries.
Oh, okay. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up anyway. Al actually helped me in the beginning, and I helped Oscar, and now we're all here together.
I know. Pay it forward, man.
Yeah.
I would like to say this. I want to take this opportunity to say this. A lot of people ask me who my influences are and who my role models are. And being an immigrant from Colombia and not really knowing anything, it's like I kind of did a lot of things on my own. But when people ask me who my mentors are, I always say Mike Panzeca and I say Al Romero, because Mike, you gave me I mentioned it already. You gave me a platform. You taught me a lot. You taught me about hard work. You taught me about running a small business. You taught me how to run a small business to the ground. and I mentioned Al because here's a quick story about Al.
Here we go.
I envied both of you because you guys did the cruise ships, and that was such a big goal in the South Florida community as comedians to try to get on. Now, remember, when I started with you guys, I was a brand new comedian, so I was raw. I was brand new. I just watched the tape there. I have a VHS tape from one of my sets from Bocanuts, and when I watch it, it is horrifying to watch. I want to burn this tape, but it's the process that you go through. And
I will buy it from you.
I remember Virginia, who was the booker at Carnival.
Yes, God bless her.
Yeah, did she die?
No, I just like her.
No. Oh, okay.
I love her. She's the sweetest girl.
So Virginia happened to be at a show at the Improv that I flew down to do, and I was just hosting. So I did 12 minutes at most. And after I brought up the feature act, I went to the bar, and then she approached me and she was like, "Hey, you're really funny. Do you want to work on the cruise ships?" And I was like, "What?" In my mind, I was like, this is very reminiscent to Mike Panzeca coming up to me after at Bocanuts and be like, "Hey, you're funny. You want a job?" So I said, yeah. I mean, I've sent my tape. I've done everything, because before you had to send a tape and then hope that they watched it. But no one ever watched it, because we know in this business, it's all about a referral.
Right.
So she came up to me and she was like, hey, I saw you. You're very funny. Do you want to work on the cruise ships? And I was like, yeah, I would love to. I've sent you my tape. I know Mike Panzeca. I know Al Romero. And her eyes lit up. She was like, oh my God, I love those guys. Here's the deal. I'm going to give you a ship. You're going to go do the ship, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And then I remember
she called me about you, and I told her to hire you. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I try to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen to me at all.
And wait, that's where the story's going. So, Mike, thank you for that. Al, This is what Al said to me. I go, Al, I just got this ship. I need advice. What advice can you give me? And Al goes, I don't know, man. It's not the comedy club. I go, okay, can you tell me more? He goes, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just not the comedy club. And I was like, okay, I need more than that. He goes, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's just not the comedy club. And then he hung up on me. And I was like,
you're such a fucking liar, all of you.
But I remember. That's what I remember.
You know what? Hey, Oscar, you know what he used to do to me? This is what he used to do to me. He knew I wanted to be on the ships. He knew I was new, young, and insecure about my comedy.
We all are.
I would do this show, and I would get this call from Al Romero. On a voicemail. Hey, Mike, it's Al. Listen, what happened on the Imagination, bro? I don't know. The cruise director said something. I don't know what it is. But anyway, give me a call. And he would do it all the time.
Oh, my God. So gut-wrenching.
And he would convince me every time that it was real. He was like, I don't know. Give me a call. They said something about that you did something. I don't know what it was. Just call me, and I'll talk to you about it.
No, but let me tell you about my first time on this ship. So I get on this ship, and I forget the cruise director's name. Super nice guy. He went to the University of Florida, which I later on found out, and which is the reason why we became friends. But I show up. I had to do one show. It was the midnight show on Sunday night. And they were like, just say whatever you want to say. You're good. Just do 45 minutes. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, my God. I don't have anywhere near 45 minutes. I got about 17 minutes and 32 seconds at most.
Yeah.
So I remember showing up to the front part of the ship, which has a nautical term, but I don't remember it, but the bow. And I don't know if it was high seas or me being nervous or a combination of both, but let me tell you, I wanted to throw up so hardcore.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, all right, are you ready? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm ready. And then he goes, all right, cool. And then he goes out and he goes like, hey guys, welcome to Comedy Night. And now Oscar Collazos. And that's when I thought of Al Romero going, oh, this is not like the comedy club. No one's warming up. No one's eating it up front.
Yeah.
Literally, hello, here's your comedian. And I come out and I am just, I was like, oh my God. But the saving grace was Comedy Traffic School. And here's why. There was 4 drunk Irish guys in the front row, not wearing shirts. They were sunburned. They looked like lobsters. And they were heckling me. So we go back and forth. And they're trying to heckle me. I'm getting them back. The crowd's laughing. We went back and forth for, I don't know how long. In my mind, I'm like, I don't even know how long. I got them to leave because they were very disruptive and they didn't want to be there. So I got them all to leave. And then I looked at my watch and I had fought these guys for 20 minutes.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, great. All I have to do is another 20 minutes, which is what I have.
Right.
And I ended up fulfilling the time that the cruise ship director wanted. And then when I got off stage, I was drenched. I was sweating. My heart was pounding. And this cruise director was like, great job. You did amazing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Did you just And he's like, no, I'm going to tell Virginia, you're awesome. And you're coming back. And you went to the University of Florida. Welcome to Carnival Cruise Lines. And that's how I lasted for 2 years.
Excellent, man.
That was awesome.
That's awesome, man. This was really good. I mean, one of our goals was to like keep this a little shorter than last time, so I'm gonna kind of wind it down. But
And Al's
We only
running out
did
of
2 hours today, so.
But it is so good to see us all together talking and sharing. I knew you would be. We're gonna have you back, man. I knew you'd be a great guest
I'd
because
love to come back.
yeah, we have so much in common. We have so many. We all started in comedy, you know, and did certain things together. We did the traffic school. We did the ships. We do comedy.
We worked in clubs together too.
What's that?
The clubs in South Florida. We did a few
The clubs
together.
I opened for Al. I opened for you, Mike. I mean, yeah. It was awesome.
And I remember seeing you the last time I saw you live was at Art Serve, and you had me on the show.
I tried to have you and Al, but Al was out of town.
Yeah, I was out of town a lot, and
I tried to have you, and I called Al, but Al didn't know how to pick up his phone. So
yeah, but I will tell you, man, I was so proud and impressed by your act. Like you have come a long way.
Okay, just blow each other and get
it was great.
Okay,
and I'm so glad you're doing well and that you're okay. You guys made me think of what was it? You made me think of. I can't remember now what it was, but when Al got me into the cruise ship, they wanted me to. I was going to do a show for him in Miami. They were going to have an opener as a singer for him, and Al calls me up, and he says, "Listen, they want to have a singer. Will you do the show? It's only like $25 to open." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, Al, whatever you want." Al, I would do anything Al asked me to do. So, and then the agents would be there, and they were going to probably get me on the ships. And I remember they wanted me. Oh, this is a great story. They wanted me to send a tape, and it was like in 2 days. And I go, "Look, I'm not sending a tape." And they go, "What?" I go, "I'm not sending a tape. It's for $25. It's in 3 days. Al Romero says I'm okay. He wants me to open. You either want me or you don't." And they were like, "Wow, this guy must be really good." He has a lot of confidence. So I go to the office, and I'm telling this story in my office at the Comedy Traffic School to Kevin Nelson and a couple other people. And I go, "Yeah, they want me to send a tape." And he's like, "Why?" I go, "I don't know. They said something about the guy last week was so terrible." He was the guy last week.
Kevin Nelson, right?
He was the guy. He goes, "What are you talking about? I was the guy from last week."
Oh my God.
Oh. But anyway, guys, this is good. Now, you know what? I haven't been feeling very positive and happy lately. And being creative, doing this right now has got me in a really good mood.
I couldn't tell that by the last couple of conversations we had on the phone, Mike.
What? Yeah, it's affecting my mood. It really is. But this really helped me a lot, man. And Oscar, you deserve everything you got, man. And it's great to reconnect. I hope we can stay together and get to see each other all again. I'm going to wrap this up, but go ahead, Oscar. You got anything you want to tell anybody before we go?
Yeah. So this Saturday or
tonight. Yeah.
Tonight.
At 10:30, right?
Yeah.
Tonight at 10 p.m.
Oh, 10.
10 p.m. And I'm like, it's a private show. So I'm doing a storytelling show to showcase some stories that I've never been able to share on stage as comedy, like as true comedy. Right. So I'm taking all these backup stories and I'm just going to put them out there. And I again, it's a private show, but since it's in an hour, it's closed, but I will be putting it up on my Facebook. On through YouTube on my Facebook. So if you're interested in watching some of the most degenerate nonsense stories that I've ever gone through, feel free. Go to
Absolutely.
my page and you'll see it.
Absolutely. And you can see Al and I at the unemployment office in the parking lot. We'll be
exactly.
I'll be calming down Al.
I'll be on the phone.
He'll be on the phone.
I don't know how to use the phone.
And in line. Yeah. And please
landline. I know how to use a landline phone.
Follow us on YouTube, Stand Up Guy Radio, and on Facebook, Stand Up Guy Radio. Please share the show with your friends, like our page, let everybody know about it. Thank you, Al. Our number 2 podcast. Thank you very much. And take care, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Take care. Bye-bye.